Dodgers to face the pinch hitter Barger. Barger sends a towering drive, right center field. Kiss it goodbye. Addison Barger has connected on a grand slam to break open game one and start this place shaking. You want to see a hard swing? That was a hard swing. And if you're unfamiliar with the Blue Jays, just learning about them today, just watch this sixth inning. Watch the bottom of the order set the table. Watch guys come off of the bench and deliver. Watch pesky two-strike hitting, and then watch power hitting. It's all rolled in together. It is the Blue Jays who put 9 runs on a Dodgers staff that gave up 4 in the entire championship series. High drive to deep right center field. It is gone. Addison Barger does indeed blow it open with a grand slam. World Series debut. Inning for the Blue Jays. I said 8 men to the plate and put up a 7 spot against one of the best pitching staffs in baseball.
2-1. Swing and a high fly ball. Right center field. Hernandez back on the track. Good! A grand slam! Addison Barger blows this game wide open. 9-2 Blue Jays in the bottom of the 6th. The first ever pinch hit grand slam in World Series history. Barger did it left on left.
Apparition Pellegrino en direction du champ droit à la piste de l'amortissement. Grandchamp, Addison Barger.
Barger qui débarque du banc. Gaucher contre gaucher. Saute sur la balle glissante. Un peu suspendu. C'est loin, mais très loin au champ centre droit. C'est maintenant 9-2 pour les Blue Jays.
Barger has been a big part of this team's success. He's got monster power in the pitch. Swing, high fly ball, out towards right center field, on its way. It's a grand slam. Addison Barger. And the Blue Jays have blown it open.
Got together with his hitting coach Hopkins, and around the 3rd game of the CS, they decided, okay, move away from the plate, free yourself a little bit, and be ready for the number 1. Allow the adjustment to be made. Wow, what a swing and what a statement here for the Blue Jays, putting 9 on the board.
2-1. Barger, high drive, right field. Hernandez, gone! What a spot to hit your first career grand slam.
What a spot to hit any sort of grand slam in the World Series. And for Barger, when you're a pitch hitter, you're looking to do damage. You're trying to get a pitch that you can handle. He probably blacked out. Check out the swing and talk about the leg kick. Slow it down. As soon as he barrels this up, he's thinking, does he have a shot? Does it have a shot? And then the reaction from the crowd. We know it has a root here. It was blown completely off.
Pierde 2-1. Y Barger conecta un batazo. Violento que parte el viento, vuela la pelota. Se lo regresa. Addison Barger se va por la ruta del vino. Cuentazo que anuncia celebración en home grand slam de Addison Barger en los Blue Jays. Primero grand slam como emergente en la historia de Serie Mundial. Y es del rockero que da un guitarrazo a Addison Barger. ¡Vamos el pelota!
Pues vamos a leer a todos. Lanza, le tira y conecta un batazo alto, largo. Por el jardín derecho va hacia atrás de Octas. Y la bola se va, se va, se va. Se fue de fiesta. Addison Barger. Home y así de un golpe. Así de un golpe. Impulsa 4 carreras más. Racimo de 7 de los azulejos, que están ganando ahora 9 carreras a 2.
リーグ優勝決定シリーズでもホームランも打ち、バージャー、高く上がったスタンド湧き上がる見送った雄たけびを上げたバージャー、満塁ホームラン。これが今年のアメリカンリーグを制したブルージェイズの強力打線。メジャー2年目初めてのワールドシリーズ出場、初打席が満塁ホームランになりました。
All right. Go. All right, so thank you for 4 people signing in. Didn't mean that. I've been drinking some sparkling water, which is risky. Hey, Julius, Fortune Cookie says it's going to be a good week. You didn't read your fortune cookie. It says, shit out of luck. We're at, it's not going to be in the news, but this war, this Russia, United, I don't know if it's the United States or just the neocons, but this standoff is getting scary. Hey, CJ Yukon. Hey, Darren Collins. That's Railtown saying Grand Slam. Yeah. I just want to go over a few things. If there's questions, we'll go longer. If not, we'll go with what we have. But, I make a lot of projections, which I stand by. But in one way, I think I have to adjust expectations. But I'm not going to change my May 5 target of 55 by 5.5. But I may change my overall ideas of higher targets, because I'm going to start using 350 million shares as my divisor. There, according to Yahoo and over the counter right now, there's 140 million shares outstanding. But if you look at their last filing, it's around 170 or 175. And then if you look at the deal they announced with AIP, it's essentially 225 million. It's 222, so it's 225 fully diluted. And let me show you what I mean. I think in Corey's head, and others, I'm not just saying Corey,
you have, you have your number of shares outstanding. And he's got in here has to go Railtown, AIP, and the rolled up AIP companies. And Railtown has to keep control, as far as I'm concerned, at 51% at least. So I think it's like this. Over here, you've got 175 million shares are Railtown. AIP's getting 50,000 shares down here. And then that leaves all this green area, let's call it 124,000 to keep the percentages right, but essentially 125,000 shares that they can play with to acquire. I hope they don't use anywhere near that. I hope they use much fewer shares than that and follow Constellation Software's model. But they have room to roll up those companies and still maintain the majority number of shares in the circle. Anyway, when you add all that up, when you double, just take 175 and double it, it's 350 million shares. And I think that's what I have to start dividing by. I've used lower numbers, but I'm going to start using 350 in my takeover numbers. You won't get to it right away. And maybe a takeover happens before you ever do. But anyway, it'll lower. We can go over some examples. It'll probably lower my targets somewhat. But hey, que sera, sera. We'll be happy with what happens. In terms, okay, that's one thing I wanted to tell you. Let me cross it off. Yeah, I guess that's one thing. I'm going to show you something. And you're going to, for those of you, I'm going to show you something. Now, as you know, we've waited a long time for the AIP deal to get finalized. And I want to make a point about that in a minute, but more than one point about that. But I just want to point something out to you that I saw. On the AIP side, and by the way, I want to say the attorneys drew up excellent documents. They did great work on the documents, and it looks like everything's in fine felt. But I just thought I'd introduce you to the team. On the AIP side, the attorneys are Charlie Malone. You can't see the name of the firm, but it doesn't really matter. Charlie Malone. He's pretending to be happy. Have you ever met a happy attorney? And Bronwyn Newell, who frankly looks quite young, but I'm sure she's not. I think she graduated in 2008. So that makes her, she's got to be in her 20s. That's on the AIP side. All right, now here's the Railtown side. Here are the attorneys for the Railtown. Mia Batchett, That's the attorney for the Railtown side. And a partner, Lisa Kosoki. I just thought I'd show you those. All right, let's just see if there were any more comments. No, no more comments. Am I live? Yes, I'm live. Okay. I can't really read it. Read the writing when it's so small, so I might be redoing some part of this. But let's see. Before I show you these, what I think, basically the checklist, the company, as far as we're concerned, a checklist, I'll try to develop this for tomorrow, but a checklist would be they negotiated and announced that they were to buy AIP Partners. That was on February 11th. So that got done. That got done. Then they owed us a finalized letter of intent. And that was accomplished on October. Now I'm losing it. October 8th, they announced that. Whatever. We'll get the number. They announced it a couple of weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. So they did on their checklist of things to do, they did get the LOI accomplished, those attorneys I just showed you. So what's left on that we're waiting on is closing the transaction with a vote and certain boxes to check. And that needs to get accomplished, finalized, done. I know only need is done. But that needs to close by the end of the month. According to one of you, I tried to find it in the documents, but actually, according to more than one of you, on the 31st, that's the last day. So that needs to be done by the end of the month. So that's still an open issue. I think they need to book revenues, and we don't know where they are on that. So that's an open issue. And I think they need to show I really don't know what to call it. The Canadian investment world, that they have a path to 150 million in annual recurring revenues. That'll be over a period of weeks and months, but that's yet to come. And the only other thing that's an ongoing thing on their list is they have to market their product. They have to get out and tell the story at conventions, and they have to sell their product. Well, that's been going on. That box will never be checked because it's an ongoing process, which we've already seen the results, maybe 5 announcements, maybe 6. But so what we're looking for, I think, and it might be too much to ask for it to happen this week. I think on that checklist, we'd like to see that they did check off all the boxes on their way to being able to complete the acquisition of AIP by Railtown. And maybe that gets announced this week. But maybe I'm going to show it to you. I saw in here the word unanimous. I don't think unanimous is required, but maybe they want to make sure everyone gets a chance to vote. I wouldn't put it past the situation that we're going to hear about the vote maybe Friday or the following Monday, in conjunction maybe with a filing that says the deal's been consummated. It's going to happen. It will happen. There's nothing going to hold it up. But I think, I just showed you the attorneys. They've shown a tremendous ability to get along and get to know each other and make sure each other's feelings are honored and everything's equitable and everything's comfortable. Any requests are allowed for. But it looks like that deal has to be, the deadline is this Friday. I couldn't quite figure it out. Maybe one of you can show me why you came up with that number, but I believe it. Well, there's a formula, and I believe it's in that formula. I'll show it to you. So I think we're going to hear about that closing of that deal, but I would expect it'll be in a week. It'll be in a week. You saw the team there. If you saw any urgency in that group of 4 attorneys, you got better eyesight than I have. They'll take the whole time, but that's all right. It is coming. And I don't think it'll hold up. Perhaps I don't think it'll hold up anything else. The only other thing we can really be waiting for now is if they can start, putting out enterprise sales agreements to us and maybe talk about revenues. I don't know. Again, it'd be nice if something came out this week, but I'm just going to assume for my sanity that everything will start rolling in November. That doesn't mean it's going to be starting from 0 in November. I think they've already got a pipeline. I think things are building up, and whenever they start talking about revenue and enterprise sales agreements, I think it's going to build on itself. So that's exciting. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to yawn. But anyway, let me see what I have here. See, I can't tell. I really can't tell if I pulled up the right thing. Oh, okay. This was filed in Canada. Let me take his message down. This was filed in Canada under the management's discussion and analysis for, darn it, does it have the name there? Uniserv, there it is, right up here, Uniserv. As you know, Railtown announced an enterprise sales agreement, or a relationship anyway, with Uniserv. So Uniserv filed their financials, and in their management discussion and analysis in Canada, they discussed Railtown. So I thought we could go over it. This was written August 31st, 2025, but it includes information after that. So I don't, maybe this is just what it is it's the financials as of August 31. But then the management discussion can talk about things since then. It was just filed the other day. Anyway, Uniserv Communications Corporation is committed, or should be committed. That's not a good joke. Anyway, Uniserv is committed to a strategy of acquisition in the MSP space. I can't figure out what that means. And is continually assessing new opportunities in the MSP and ISP spaces. I really don't know what those stand for. So sorry about that. On September 15th, 2025, Uniserv announced it entered into a lease with 369 Terminal Holdings, a new state-of-the-art data center development in Vancouver, Colombia. Under the terms of the lease, Uniserv will lease 10,000 square feet of premium space. The new facility is designed to power the next generation of AI workloads, high-density compute, and the digital economy at scale. As part of the agreement, it goes into money and some warrants and whatever. And it's down here. Management believes that the lease represents a transformational setup for Uniserv. Quote, it allows us to immediately advance construction of a flagship facility that will support both conventional enterprise workloads and the explosive demand for AI compute. The explosive demand for AI compute. With 2 megawatts, I think that's what MW is, but somebody corrected me the other day. Maybe it means something else. Of initial capacity, this site positions Uniserv as a critical player in the next wave of Canadian infrastructure, a 2 MW of scalable AI-ready power in downtown in Vancouver, a key North American technology hub. And by the way, that's where it's near where Railtown's headquartered. Financially accretive, not dilutive, financially accretive structure with $2 million in combined incentives strengthens the balance sheet. National expansion platform, long-term growth, pursuant to blah, blah, talks about the capitalization. On October 8th, 2025, the company announced that it has entered into this thing that causes shorts to sell, but it has to be announced, a memorandum of understanding with Railtown AI Technologies, a developer of AI agentic frameworks and I think this says observability tools. The partnership aims to develop and deliver scalable AI solutions tailored for small and medium-sized companies. The partnership combines Uniserve's infrastructure in 3 core service areas: data center infrastructure and services, ISP infrastructure and services, and managed IT services, supporting approximately 3,000 small to medium-sized enterprise customers. The introduction of Railtown AI tools into the Uniserve ecosystem enables our customers with the capability to articulate and actualize a modernization strategy while being able to address the rising demand for cost-effective AI solutions. Representing over 90% of Canadian businesses, SMEs present a significant market opportunity, and this collaboration aims to deliver practical AI applications such as workflow, automation, and predictive analytics to enhance efficiency and competitiveness for these businesses. By combining Railtown's agentic frameworks and observability tools with Uniserve's established SME client base and national infrastructure, the partnership is positioned to deliver practical and rapidly deployable AI solutions at scale. The company plans to leverage its established relationships and infrastructure to develop and host AI applications, GPUs, and customized cloud solutions for its clients and partners. This will lead to new revenue streams for Uniserve and allow us to serve the current customer base, as well as continue strong revenue growth by adding customers in the area of support and service. Additionally, Uniserve intends to implement agentic AI applications internally, so they could use Railtown internally to improve operational efficiencies, particularly in its managed service providers, I guess that's MSPs, help desk operations, and with the goal of increasing margins and workflows. These applications may be refined for broader market distribution, potentially creating additional revenue streams. This partnership will also serve as a springboard for Uniserve to increase its GPU compute capacity as its existing customer base begins the adoption of these types of agentic solutions in their day-to-day business. The small to medium-sized enterprise market represents a significant opportunity because of its size and limited access to AI solutions. Uniserve's existing network of SME customers provides a strong foundation for deploying AI solutions, enabling the company to expand its service offerings and strengthen its position in Canadian IT services market through its partnership with Railtown. Roadhouse. So this is was filed October 24th, and I just printed it here so you can see it. This is what they filed with the regulators. And then they talked about the business, which if you care, you can look up. But I wanted you to see this. Uniserve was incorporated on January 19th, 1988. So it's been around a while. It's been around a while. I think I want to show you this. Let me just look. I might be the wrong one. No, that's not what I want to show you. Well, I'll show you in a minute. Do you remember Tony, Tiny Tap Dancer? He came on early on, slammed this idea and me, but he also slammed, he delayed many of you from buying it. And one of his things is you've got to read the finances, the financial, it's got a going concern. And he made a big deal of that because he doesn't know what he's doing, in my judgment. But I want to show you in this company's been around since '88. In this filing, they also put a going concern clause in their filing. They all do it. It's a lawyer cover your ass type thing, and frankly, it's a legitimate concern with almost every company, even big ones, even big companies. But lawyers put it in there. I'll show it to you when we come to it. This is going on with Uniserv, the overall business outlook. Uniserv has continued streamlining its operations within its core business in an effort to improve its operational cost structure and to improve efficiencies across the entire organization. Uniserv has focused on developing high value-added products and services to support businesses in all things IT related. And their goals this year have been growth of their data center infrastructure and capacity, growth of their managed services monthly recurring revenue, and growth in our internet service provision infrastructure. That's ISP, internet service provision. They have their revenue is not gigantic. And maybe that's why they put that clause in there. Here it is. Sorry, I knew it was going to come up. So Tony, double step, didn't want you to buy Railtown when it was 25 cents because their filing had a going concern clause in it. And that just shows intent, naivete, or inexperience, or just general not knowing what he's talking about. This shows up everywhere. Now, in Canada, it shows up this way with a big headline, but it's in almost every prospectus under risks of anything you ever see. But anyway, Uniserv has a going concern clause there, and I don't think it means anything. The company's been around. But I want you to show you that when you're listening to Tony the tongue, the talker, he doesn't always know what he's talking about. Unlike me, I always know what I'm talking about. All right, let's go to the agreement. That was Uniserv. I want to try to go through the agreement and see if we can suss out a little bit why, when they announced the deal, being it's essentially they announced the LOI, but the intent to acquire pending shareholders' approval. Let's say why it's taking a little while, other than I think I showed you a group of attorneys that get along very well. They sure do get along. All right, let's go over some of the terms here. This is the amalgamation agreement between Railtown and AIP. And I think the attorneys drew up a good agreement. At least one, if not two of those attorneys are partners. So this must be in their, these kind of agreements must be in their database. But I guess they had to start from scratch for the younger. Well, they're all young, except for one of them who wants to be young. Agreement to amalgamate. So the parties, obviously AIP and Railtown, they're going to amalgamate under section such and such of the Canadian Code, and at the effective time, as of the effective time. Well, I think I took a picture of it, but when you look up the definition of effective time, it says, as discussed in section 2.1, and it's the effective date. It's all very circular, but hey, I'm not an attorney. The amalgamation shall become effective at the effective time. Now, the best I can tell, and I'm actually remembering some of the feedback I got from you all, is that's next Friday is the effective time or the effective date, the amalgamation. But I couldn't find in the document that I might have missed it, October 31st. But you guys gave it to me, and I believe you. So effective as of the effective time, the amalgamating companies shall amalgamate. I wonder how long it took the four attorneys to get together and come up with that sentence. The amalgamating, let's call them the amalgamating companies. And what are they going to do? Well, they're going to amalgamate. So why don't we write that way? The amalgamating companies shall amalgamate to form. Now, what should we call the company? Up here, we call it the amalgamation, but what do you think we should call it in our document? Well, let me check with Charlie, and I'll get back to you. How about if we call it Newco? No, Newco, everybody says Newco. Why don't we call it Amalco? All right, we'll call it Amalco, and shall continue operating as one company. So anyway, the amalgamating company shall be amalgamated and continue as Amalco. Amalgamating company shall cease, all this crap. So immediately following the effective time, Amalco will be a direct wholly subsidiary of Railtown. Amalco shall possess all the property rights, privileges. Under privileges, that's probably the first right of refusal to buy up the 180 companies, I'm guessing. The privileges, franchises, and be subject to all liabilities, including all sorts of things of each of the amalgamating companies. Anyway, let's not read any more about the amalgamators. So here we go. The effective, I mean, it's very hard to come to a conclusion here. The amalgamation shall be effective at the effective time on the date that is either the earlier of I, the date that is 3 business days after the satisfaction or waiver of the conditions set forth in Article 6, other than delivery of items, and the satisfaction of those conditions, that they here in Article 6, which cannot be satisfied until the effective date, and II, such date as is mutually agreed in writing by the parties, the effective date, and the parties shall execute the closing certificate confirming the effective date. So that clarifies that, doesn't it? You saw those four attorneys, they got together and they came up with this paragraph. Now you can understand why a paragraph like that would take a long time, because it's completely meaningless to the rest of us. The completion of the amalgamation shall take place to the extent practicable via electronic document exchange and otherwise at the offices of Bennett Jones in Vancouver. Well, that clears that up. So here's the attorneys, Bennett Jones in Vancouver. You've met Mia Batchik, and you met Lisa Kakowski. And then you've met the attorneys on the AIP side, Wildeboer Delici in Toronto, Charlie Malone, and Bronan Newell. So in the definition, the effective date has the meaning ascribed to them thereunto in section 2.10, which I just read to you. The effective time means the time on the effective date that the amalgamation becomes effective, which the parties agree shall be 12:01 a.m. Vancouver time on the effective date, which if you look up here has the meaning ascribed thereto in section 2.10, which I just read to you, or such other time on the effective date as may be determined by the parties and confirmed by them in writing. Well, I'm glad we clarified that. I'm glad we got that nailed down. So here are the issues. The completion of the transaction is subject to a number of closing conditions, including but not limited to the approval of the AIP shareholders here, which I think that's going to be a matter of course, the conversion of certain outstanding promissory notes of AIP into AIP shares. I would imagine those notes were given to the company by the founders or by close insiders, and that will not be an issue. Dissent rights having not been exercised by the holders of more than 5% of AIP shareholders. Again, I don't see this as an issue because anyone holding more than 5% of the company is probably either one of the founders who all voted for it, or one of the insiders that went along with the initial funding on behalf of the founders, and the receipt of any required regulatory approvals. I'm sure they've been working with the regulators all along, including the approval of the Canadian Securities Exchange. Again, I think those will be now pretty much automatic, but they delay. You see, you got to get each step of this done. And each one involves decision making and signatures. But I think we're finally at that point where it's pointless going on. If loving you is wrong, I don't wanna be right. If being without you means I'd rather live a wrongdoing life. Your mama and daddy said he's a shame. It's a shame. It's a downright disgrace. Let's see if I can read this. All right, this is the Railtown announcement that they're executing this amalgamation. I find that hard to read. So it's there. It's the news story. You guys can always look it up yourself. I'm not going to read it out to you. They describe the transaction down here, of course. And again, I'm not going to read it to you because I can't. It's impossible to read it. But at the very bottom, shareholders of AI holding 51.2% of the outstanding shares of AIP have entered into voting support agreements with Railtown and AIP in support of the transaction. So they already have 52% of the shares, 51% supporting the deal. Now, maybe in Canada, they need a majority of shareholders. And then completion of this transaction is subject to a number of conditions, including but not limited to the receipt of required shareholder approval by AIP. There can be no assurance that the transaction will be completed as proposed or at all. The completion of the transaction is also subject to other conditions for a transaction of this nature. The good thing is the attorneys all get along with each other. You got to remember that. Oh, shoot. What did I do? And then 2.5, company shareholder approval. The company shall use reasonable best efforts to obtain approval of the amalgamation resolution by way of, you see this right here? Not my big nose. Right here. Right here. Unanimous written consent resolution. By way of a unanimous written consent resolution on or before the date that is 25 days following the date hereof. I think that's where the gentleman that told me if you add October 6th to 25, you get October 31st. It being acknowledged that such approval may be accomplished by relying on section 3.62 of the, I think that stands for either voluntary or voting transaction agreement. Anyway, I can't find a copy of that anywhere. I looked for it. But that agreement is between, I think, AIP and Railtown. It may be between AIP and its own shareholders. But anyway, the way I read this is once they get to the vote they need of a number of shareholders, then they have a vote to make it unanimous. But it also backs up my contention that they may give every shareholder the dignity of submitting her vote by the deadline this Friday. So I kind of think this AIP could be end of the week, first part of the next week. That's my point. This is my point right here too, but I hope you don't notice how big it is. All right. This came from Corey Brandolini, and I took a picture of it. I thought his name was there, but you'll just have to take my word for it. If you go to his LinkedIn, you'll find this there. And he says, it's weird. Somehow I chopped his name out of it. Well, sorry about that. You can look it up to confirm it. But this is today or 4 days ago. And he explains agent observability. And that's what Railtown does. Agent observability is the missing link is that really a word? To productionizing? Does that really say productionizing? Well, it is an evolving language. Productionizing AI agents. AI agents are evolving rapidly, but without observability, they are flying blind with a black box. Our latest blog breaks down why agent observability is essential for debugging, trust, and scale. From tracing tool calls to understanding decision paths, observability turns opaque agents into transparent, reliable systems. At Conductor, we've built agent observability into the core of our platform, giving teams the visibility they need to deploy and scale with confidence. And then here's the link at their second website, Conductor without an E or an O, .ai. Okay. I think this is next. Agent, this is from, see up here, that's Conductor, that's how you spell it. This is their website, their blog. Agent observability is the missing link to productionizing AI agents. Written October 20th, 2025. AI agents are transforming industries from customer support and financial advising to developer tools and enterprise automation. Most agents fail, I think. Like black boxes, silent, untraceable, and impossible to detect. All businesses scale their use of AI as businesses scale their use of AI, transparency it becomes a technical concern. So if you have this observability, it becomes a competitive advantage. AI agents are black boxes. Today's AI agents, whether built on proprietary large language models or open source frameworks, lack visibility into how they reason, perform, or fail. Voice assistants, recommendation engines, and autonomous workflows may deliver impressive results, but their inner workings remain hidden. Agent observability is critical because things can go wrong. A transparent agent isn't just easier to trust, it's also easier to debug, deploy, and improve. When teams can see how decisions are made, they can know what caused the error, know where to find it, and when it was introduced. They can comply with regulations such as the EU AI Act, AIDA, and more. They can validate agent outputs and correct errors. And they can see how decisions are made. They can, yeah, I already read that. Issues with black box AI. Despite its power, black box AI agents come with serious limitations. I guess one, or under this heading, is opaque reasoning. When an agent runs, there is no trace of tools called, inputs used, and whether intermediate steps were taken. This lack of reasoning traceability means you can't validate outputs, challenge flawed logic, or even understand what went wrong. It's like trying to debug a system with no logs. Another issue is complex systems. Modern agents are built on complex layer of architecture, LLMs, tool chains, memory, vector stores, and custom logic. There is a lack of visibility on how these complex systems behave under stress. This leads to debugging with no clear entry point, spending unnecessary time with error reproduction, or isolating error instances, and leads to fragmented logs across environments, making correlation impossible. Another problem is silent failures. AI agents alone can be inherently variable. When things go wrong, they rarely raise a flag. Instead, they continue operating as if nothing happened, returning flawed outputs without any indication of error, and sometimes making decisions based on faulty logic or hallucinated data. So, agent observability solves the problem of agents as a black box. Agent observability means having visibility into how agents behave, make decisions, and perform across environments. It's not just logging, it's structured insight into agent reasoning, performance, and reliability. Conductor's first-class agent observability drives productionizing reliable and traceable AI agents. With Conductor, you can monitor agent runs across sessions and environments, capture behavior, including tool calls and decision paths, monitor agent performance in real time, fix issues quickly with agent history and status. Agent observability unlocks value. Observable agents are business assets. It accelerates development cycles, reduces risk, empowers cross-functional teams to iterate quickly. Too bad the attorneys don't use this to iterate. Businesses have already seen results automating support and launching financial co-pilots more quickly by using platforms that prioritize agent observability. I guess this is new. I don't think I'm rereading. Agent observability unlocks business value. Agents are business assets. Observable agents are business assets. It accelerates development cycles, reduces risk, and empowers cross-functional teams to iterate quickly. I guess I read it already. So it leads to shorter debug cycles, provides a unified view of agent behavior across environments, and pinpoints where and what happened. It boosts agent reliability, tracks success rates, latency, and costs in real time, and it helps you understand reasoning. You can visualize agent reasoning steps, tool calls, integration, and it solves the problem of opaque reasoning. Agent observability is what transforms AI from a black box into a dependable business tool. By making every agent run visible, traceable, and measurable teams. Okay, let me start that again. By making every agent run visible, traceable, and measurable, teams can move beyond guesswork and start building with confidence. Developers gain the clarity to debug product. Leaders gain the insight to optimize, and organizations gain the trust they need to scale. Sorry, it's hard to read, and the rhythm of the writing is, it's business writing. I read this. I'll just read the last sentence. That's probably why I saved this here. Conductor's agent observability gives developers full visibility into tool calls, decision paths, and runtime behavior, making debugging and optimization fast, traceable, and scalable. I think scalable is important. All right, now I'm going on to quickly point out something to you about digital. Look how many organizations are engaged with digital. That's part of this thing they're doing together. 1,200. So you add 1,200 to the 3,000 in Uniserve and the 180 plus in AIP. That's a pretty good universe of companies to go sell Conductor to that already are motivated to listen and engage. All right, here's Dr. Tom Core on LinkedIn. This is 2 weeks ago. I'm sure I already read this to you. AI Partnership Corp is pleased to announce that it has entered into an amalgamation agreement with Railtown AI, whereby we agree to amalgamate our assets into a new company called Amalco, short for Amalgamation Corporation. This company will result in a powerhouse. That's what I want to point out to you. This Dr. Tom Core knows whereof he speaks. This combination will result in a powerhouse in the AI sector. That's a pretty big statement. Since its formation in 2020, AIP has created a network of over 180 AI software as a service companies throughout Canada and below the border with locations worldwide, and blah, blah, blah. He thanks employees, investors, co-founders, advisors through this incredible journey to create the AIP affiliate network, leading to this combination with Railtown AI. And a sincere thanks to all the affiliates who have chosen to partner with AIP and leverage the AIP affiliate network. That's where Railtown is right now, selling their Conductor. All right, let me see. I think that's all I had to go over, but maybe not. Yeah, that's all I had. Unless you want to see the attorneys again. You might want to see the attorneys again. You never know. Eric, I'm from Montreal, but go Toronto, go. Exactly. I played it for you, Eric. I knew you're for well, we got the Expos here. They're the Nationals now. Story of the past. I know. Hey, Donna. Good evening. Eric says hello, Donna. Donna says hello too. Jim, how are you? Just a thought, if Microsoft would buy out Railtown using just shares, how many shares of Railtown? Well, I think the clarity, or not clarity, but the adjustment to my numbers, I'm going to increase the number of shares I use in the denominator. And if I go to Microsoft's market cap right now is 3.9 trillion. So if I just assume, which I think is high right now, obviously, but if I assume Microsoft got in a bidding war and they're willing to give up 1% of their market cap in stock, I would say they'd pay 39 trillion. That's a trillion. 39 billion for Railtown. That's a very high number right now. But let's go with it, and we can adjust it as we go. So I would use 39 billion. 39 billion divided, I'm going to use 350 million shares, even though there's only 220 million shares out now. That gives you a target price of $111. So roughly, in the most extreme positive, they blowout bidding war, which at this point we can't know that would happen. I think you would get 1 share of Microsoft for every 5 shares of Railtown that you had. That's in the glorious, most exciting number that I can think of, which would be that they buy it out, which I think is a very small price to pay for Microsoft. Look, if they were to pay $40 billion for the company at a 75 multiple of revenues, that's $500 million in revenues. Railtown could get there. I don't know if they're going to get there quickly enough. See, that's the thing. If my thinking has changed, I thought it would be 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. I really think a buyout's going to happen much more quickly because everybody, for their own reasons, all parties are going to want to get something done quickly. So could they show a path to $500 million in revenue by, let's say, the end of the first quarter? Maybe, but I don't know. I don't know. It might take a little longer. And so that's going to be the thing, Jim, is I think Microsoft, that's just my prediction. Obviously, there's many other companies that would be interested in joining in, but I'm just predicting Microsoft because they've been in there. Corey's already sold a company before to Microsoft, and also it's the easiest name to use. But they'd only have to issue 1% in stock. I don't think they'd have a problem doing that just to get the company. But I do admit, and that's disappointing to me. I thought about it today. By using 350 million shares outstanding, it brings my high numbers down, So if you want to cut that in half and say they only pay 20 billion, I think it brings it down to I don't know, $55. That's my May 5th target. Which is still great in Microsoft stock. So in that case, you would probably get 1 share of Microsoft stock for every 8 shares of Railtown. But, it's not worth going too far into the analysis because there's so many variables. But I guess the key thing is, I think once revenues start flowing, or the announcement, or the clarity of revenues is either disclosed or described, I think, and that's a prediction, and I could be wrong, but I think there will be a buyout of the company, friendly or unfriendly, solicited or unsolicited, much more quickly than everybody's expecting. I was expecting 9 months, 12 months, 18 months. So that's a big statement to say it's going to be sooner than that. But we'll find out if I'm right. I'm in an agile developed SecOps teams, and it's true that observability is the keystone of good infrastructure sizing, performance, and code enhancement. Well, maybe that's part of what makes Conductor outstanding. Ward Richardson. Good evening, William and everybody. Last Monday, Amazon outage was a software issue, a latent defect. Amazon suffered a worldwide outage affecting more than 1,000 companies and millions of and they could use Conductor. Good evening, Ward. I'm looking forward to the next few weeks. I'm hoping we get some news stating the sales deal has been completed. Yeah, I think personally, Donna, I think there's going to be more than, I see what you mean. The acquisition of AIP. Yeah, that's one of the things. And I think that's significant to, believe it or not, to bringing in some buyers. That matters to some buyers. And then I think there'll be revenue deals. I don't know how many, but I was mulling over that today too. They started commercializing their product last year. They started going to conferences. I don't know, call it 20 months of being out there talking about their product, and it's apparently a hot product. How many leads could they build up and turn into, not only interested parties, but hot leads and contracts in a 20-month period? I bet it's a big number. 20 months, can we say 2 or 3 a month? Maybe. So they may have 2 or 3 dozen revenue deals. I don't know if they're signed or if they're, sold in the sense that money's changed hands or design teams have started meeting or anything. But I think it's conceivable that there's 2 or 3 dozen really serious candidates to kick off revenue growth over the next weeks and get deals signed, put it in the presentation. So I think there's going to be a lot of revenue showing up, but we'll find out when they can actually start talking about what's happening. Hey, account settings. Did you see AI partnerships are now listed on the Railtown site? No, I didn't. I didn't see that. That's interesting. They're listed on AI side, and I actually went through some more this weekend. I didn't make a new thing to show you, but maybe I'll get that done tomorrow. It's so many of them. Because what I've been doing is taking the names and then seeing if I can find out on Google what revenue they have. And I'm sure it's I'm sure the numbers I'm coming up with are not exact, but I don't cheat. I only write down what I think is reliable. And, I've already come up with over 200 million in revenue from those AIP partners. So that's exciting. And if they're now on the Railtown website, that means the deal's done. They wouldn't go through that effort unless they're highly confident. But I guess, the attorneys have to draw up whatever. Well, I don't know if it's the attorneys. I would have guessed Dr. Kaur has to get that vote, that unanimous resolution per the VTA accomplished, and then I guess they can announce it and file it with the Canadian SEC. Anyway, we're within days of it, and so I think it's all very exciting. I was trying to show by reading that out that it seems, for whatever reason, justifiable or not justifiable, bureaucratic or human nature, it doesn't matter. It just seems the process, as they do it, it's taking 2 weeks or so. Fair enough. It's just a process. Nothing to get upset about. Ward Richardson, affecting websites and apps like Canvas, Facebook, ClassPass, and Fortnite were hurt. Oh, they were affected by the Amazon shutdown. Then banking, mobile payment services like Venmo, and airlines like Delta and United reported issues. The list on the financial impact will be in the billions. And so if you have an agent, I assume this is what Ward is trying to suggest. I don't want to speak for him, but if you have an agent that helps a team in minutes locate a data breach, a security risk, a bug, and does it inside of the vertical system of Amazon, for example, so that there's no risk to Amazon's data being stolen by anybody. And it's done with these tools. I just learned about observability. I guess it's, one thing I don't know is how difficult is it to add observability to other companies' product offerings. I have no idea how long it takes to build it and all that. But the fact that Railtown has been working on this suite of products for essentially from the white paper about 6 years ago, 5.5, it leads me to believe they have a head start. And whether that head start is 9 months or 4 years, it's enough of a head start with the self-learning aspect of AI that a corporate decision would be buy Railtown, don't invest in one of the startups, or do both. I mean, they may do more than one, who knows? But they're going to want to get into Railtown because it's, as Corey says, battle tested, but it's ready to go. This is a race. And when you enter a race, you buy the fastest horse, but you also buy the horse that's already got the saddle on and the jockey and the drugs injected. Solomon's treasure. All right, Solomon, that is awesome. That's a great. I'm going to write down. I owe you guys. I'm going to do that. I didn't get it done today, but I'll have it tomorrow. That's awesome, Solomon. That's a good number, by the way. If, for example, it were to go to $55, you know, that's a good number. That's the kind of thing that, particularly if it were to go to $55 in the form of being acquired by, you know, Oracle or NVIDIA, or my favorite, Microsoft, you wouldn't have to pay taxes on that, and you have a blue chip stock. Of course, we got to be ready. I do believe this has been a generational secular bull market. Well, it's certainly been a baby boom bull market, and baby boomers are starting to I think, other than voting in a block for and going to no king events, they're kind of starting to be irrelevant in their outlook. As long as their houses remain valuable, as their pensions bring in cash flow, they won't sell stock. But panic is a funny thing. It causes a lot of rapid decision making. So we got to be careful that when the bull market ends, the secular bull market ends, stocks like Microsoft can come down quickly too. So we'll have to have a strategy for that. The one I have right now is we'll buy puts. And we can either do it by selling calls or just use a little bit of margin in the accounts. So, but anyway, Solomon, that's a great position. My target of 55 is based on, obviously, we got to know how many shares are out there for the divisor. The multiples and the metrics that those multiples are based on have to remain sky high. And I think they will for many months and probably for many quarters. But, you know, when the overall market runs into trouble, the door can slam pretty quickly. So we got to pay attention to that. We want the market to remain strong during this period of time. And we want to make sure that Wall Street still has huge amounts of cash in all their different pools ready to go into these AI tools. And I don't see it ending soon, but we got to keep our alert on. But assuming all of that remains the same and the shares don't go above, say, 300 or 350 million, I think $55 is low in a buyout by one of these companies. Very low, actually. But we'll find out. But still, Solomon, that's something that if it goes into your account and you can leave it there for a year or so and start to accept the fact that you're a millionaire in your account, and we'll have to hedge it and those kind of things, but you don't turn it into hot money and you don't spend it. That's the kind of thing that can change a man's outlook and a woman's outlook. Donna says hello, account settings, and great. Congratulations to Solomon's Treasure. Bravo. Neil Gondek. I don't know why it's hard to reach over there. Good evening, fellow rail investors. Had a chat with IR last week. Better than I've done. All signs point to the votes being acquired to execute the acquisition on or before the 31st. I agree with that. And Neil, I haven't talked to the company, but I tried to show, I don't think it's that complicated, but anyway, plotting would be a better word, but it is going to finish. And I think that completion of the acquisition, I agree with you 100%. It'll happen by the end of the week. And the way you've written this, big dollars coming, that you juxtaposed it against your first point, I'm assuming what you mean, which I think is true, certainly of a subset of investors. The completion of this deal is required before their money starts flowing. And we thought, at least I did, I thought the completion would be at the same time as the announcement. Didn't work out that way, but that's okay. We've gone through the 2 weeks of short attacks and we made it through. So I think that's great, Neil. I'm glad you talked to them. I'll read it again so everyone hears it. Neil Gondek says that he spoke with IR last week. All signs point to the votes being acquired in order to execute the acquisition on or before Friday. And then big dollars are coming in to the stock. And Ward says to Donna, good evening. Yes, I agree with you. It will be an exciting few weeks and months ahead of us all. Yeah, I agree. And I hope as we can fill in some of the numbers, like revenue, number of shares, and we can track deals and multiples and valuations, maybe we can come up with targets that are more refined than my wags, my wild ass guesses. But I really think in those few weeks, Ward and Donna, you could see an acceleration. I don't think it'll happen in November, don't get me wrong. And I think I've mentioned before that I thought something could happen before year end. I guess it kind of could. But I think it's more of a first quarter type thing. If Railtown, there was a company I read to you last week, an AI company, that raised money at a valuation of $500 million, and they had 10 million in revenue. All Railtown has to do is start showing revenue and then painting a picture, a vision believable vision of where the revenue is going to go. And I don't think it's going to matter if we believe it or not. It's whether the institutions up in Canada buy in. And I have a feeling they're already bought in to the idea. And account settings says, hello, Donna, I'm happy for you and everyone. Account settings, thanks, Neil. And Solomon says, thanks to Donna. And it's 9:21. Let me check if I went over everything I wanted to. Yeah, I guess the one thing I want to remind you, and I showed it to you 2 days ago. I'm not going to go search for it now because it'll take too long. But I showed you a company in sort of the AI agenic space like Railtown. It was published. It's in a magazine. I'll find it for tomorrow. It's just there's so many pages, I'll never find it right away right now. But they raised $100 million and they're new. It's a private company at a 1.25 valuation. 1.25 valuation. I would contend to you that as AIP closes, as the company can start telling their story, particularly to institutions, and as revenue starts not coming in, I mean, that's another thing I think Tony Tiny Toes has wrong. My understanding, I don't follow him, but I'm told that he's saying, so I might be misquoting him, but he's saying that it'll take months and quarters for us to be able to track this revenue and see this revenue. And so the stock is going to take a long time to go up. This is completely wrong. It's just wrong. I'm not going to characterize it as to why it's wrong, but it is wrong. You've never seen all these stocks that you've followed from AMC onward, all of them. You've never seen a real market. And I don't think there are real markets down here in the US stock market. But what's different with Railtown, it is, and Canadian stocks get crushed by shorts, but this is a senior, if I can put it that way, Canadian stock exchange stock. It changes depending on market cap, but it has been and may still be one of the top 25 companies on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and therefore in that index. But Canada is making a commitment to AI. That runs from the government to the provinces to the venture capitalists to the bankers, and there's incentives to the data companies, to the data centers, to the chips. I mean, it's a big tailwind behind. I think a tailwind's a good thing, but it's a wind in the sail for these investments. Worldwide, the race on AI is massive. China reportedly's already got something better than NVIDIA's chip. And then some other company says they're, and it's a race. And it's national security, it's economies. There will be trillions of dollars directed this way. So you got that going for you as well. And then Wall Street, not just Canadian Street, Wall Street is just pouring money. Companies are in an arms race to acquire first movers. So if we use as a potential valuation 1.25 billion of sort of when the penny drops or when the aha moment comes, the eureka happens, when AIP is finalized, when the revenues start clarifying and the company's out telling the story to institutions, if you use 1.25 billion and, I hate this, but use 350 million shares outstanding, not the 225 million extant, that gives you a $3.50 target soon. That's my opinion. Now, if you use a SoundHound valuation, 7.7, that's 6 times 350. You got a $21 target. So that's what I think comes next. Somewhere between $3.50 and $21 as the story clarifies and gets exposure, gets told over the next weeks and 2 months, 3 months. Ward Richardson says this outage is the 4th or 5th Mag 7 company which has had this happen to them in the last few months. And I see, that could lead to an immediate buyout. Yeah, I agree with you. But then on the other side, Ward, I don't think the company's going to sell quickly. Look, it all comes down to price. And all you need is 2 bidders to get the price up. And with a high price, sellers sell. So anyway, it's 9:30. I think I'll stop there. That was my best effort to get some ideas in your head. If the AIP takes all week, and which is fine, we can live through a week. It's coming, just like account settings pointed out. It's already on the Railtown site. It's coming. I think you can be assured there's nothing gone wrong there. And if revenues, maybe they take till next week, till November, you can be assured the shorts are going to come and try to hit the stock. They don't have backing of big hedge funds. This is just desperate, puny, hyena type shorts. This isn't the lion that takes down the beast. These are just the ugly little dogs that hover hoping to get a scrap. So don't get scared out. The stock looks great on a chart to me, but don't get scared out. If it spikes down, maybe buy some more. But I could be wrong. Things could start accelerating. Once they start, it's going to, like Ward and Donna have said, it's going to be fun. So I guess I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. Please pray for peace. Things are ratcheting up. Words and bravado and simplistic ideas of how quickly a war could be won or fought That's how World War I started. And, it's generational. I guess we just forget. It's not people my age, it's people like the age of Rubio, who has no concept of what happened. And I don't either. I guess it was in our history books and in the movies more. But, and I read history, or used to. So pray for peace, and pray that every child in the world gets a happy childhood and gets to enjoy a childhood. And with that, I'll leave it until tomorrow. Good night to each of you, and thanks for tuning in. And I'll get the numbers. Good job, Solomon. Solomon's treasure. Bravo. All right, good night.